listening to the Alchemical Tech Revolution, and I am your host, Wayne McRoy. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, nothing new under the sun. Tonight, folks, I want to offer a message of hope, a message of encouragement for those out there that are feeling a little bit beaten down in this life. We need to remember there is nothing new under the sun. All of this has been done before, will be done again. You see, we live in a world that is governed by cycles of time, and we are indeed living in interesting times for sure. But I want to offer you some comfort, and like I said, some hope, some encouragement, a word directly from the Bible. So tonight we're going to be reading in the book of Ecclesiastes, just as a reminder to understand you are not alone. You are never alone. Your experience is not unique. There are those who have been in your place, who have walked in your shoes before, and understand you, know where you've been, and the good Lord above knows where you're going, what He has planned for you. And in this, we could take solace and comfort. So, that being the case, let's get into the reading here. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? I'm going to pause right there, folks. So you see, even back in the olden times, people had these same kind of questions, same kind of observations of the world around them. What does it all mean? What's it all about? What good is it? Why do I toil away, day in and day out, always hoping for something better in the future, always planning for a future that may not ever come to fruition? That's what the preacher here was asking. He was asking, what profit hath a man of all his labor in which he taketh under the sun? What does it all mean? What does it all amount to? So you could see how some people kind of get discouraged in life, and this is where the preacher was when he was asking this. But we'll see. By the end of the passages here, we'll understand that he came to some profound wisdom through asking these questions and wondering about these things. And that's something that's missing in our modern society. The rat race has gone on for too long. We've been just running this rat race, things going so quickly, time flying so fleetingly by, just toiling away at nothing of true importance, and not understanding what we have to show for it, or what is our lot in this life. And these were questions asked by not only the ancient philosophers, but the ancient fathers in the foundings of the Christian religion, and of course the Judaic and the Hebrew. All of these major religious traditions of the world, we all have had these same questions through all of time. These things transcend time and culture, folks. These are questions that transcend time and culture, and these are the important things. What's the meaning of it all? And that's what the preacher here was pondering. So let's continue reading here. When we started in book 1, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1, and that was just verse 3. So let's read on from verse 4 forward. One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks, again, just to point out that he's noticing all of these concepts in the natural world, and he's making a comparison here to human life. Things run in cycles. Let's put it that way. Everything has its own particular cycle. You can observe this in nature. The sun makes its way across the sky, arises and sets, day in, day out. The wind blows one way, then the other, and circles back again. And that's the observation the preacher here was making. Let's read on, because he offers some more context to this as well. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So if you're toiling away at a job that you do day in and day out just to meet your bare necessities of life, and you're wondering about this stuff, and you've ever gotten caught up in that and thought, why do I continue to do this? You're not alone. Many people have been there. Even the ancients have been there. Like I said, this is something that transcends time and culture. And as we see here, people asked these questions and came to some profound answers, if we stick with it here, which we fully intend to. So understand that this world, this reality in which we live, according to the preacher here, is full of labor. These things never end. It's an ongoing cycle. There's constant movement, constant work being done all around us. This is a portion of the natural world. This is something that's an essential thing. It's necessary. It's inherent in this place we live. And we as human beings, being a microcosm of the macrocosm, are no different. We too are intended to continually keep working in this way, and it's not to say that you should keep toiling away at a dead-end job that you don't like, but what you should be doing is something that brings you joy in order to do it. And it's not always easy to get there, but you should at least be trying to work towards that. You see, the good Lord does not have bad things in store for us. He gives good gifts to his children, and he has a plan and a purpose for you. And sometimes you don't always find it right away in life. I'm one of those people. I toiled away for 30 years, working in dead-end jobs that got me nowhere. Toiling away, working toward some future time wherein I could maybe enjoy the fruits of my labor. And it does get tiresome. I'll be honest. I've gotten tired. I've had crises of faith myself at certain times in my life. And often you wonder, why do I keep doing this? Where is the relief? Because sometimes you just feel overwhelmed, overrun by this world, tired out by this world. And you just want a little bit of a reprieve, a little bit of a rest. And oftentimes that rest seems afar off, and you don't catch a break. Understand, you're not alone. You're not alone, and I think there's comfort to be found in that. There are people who understand your plight and have been there themselves, and at the very least they can lend a listening ear to your frustrations and your struggles. But also remember, you can work towards something better in small incremental steps. And you can achieve those goals by keeping them realistic and time-bound, and keeping them in little, minute steps towards a larger overall goal in this way. So making these observations, I think, is often a start point for people, because our society is so fast-paced and quick-moving, and the attention span is so low. Most people don't even take the time to think anymore. They don't sit and ponder these questions. They're kept busy chasing after some dream. Whether that dream be a big house, the American dream was always about the big house, the car, the vacations, the weekend trips, this kind of thing, status symbols. So while you're busy chasing the American dream, you begin to realize that your toil is not going towards those ends. Not all the time. That's not to say it's not achievable. It certainly can be achievable. But are your priorities in the right place? That's the thing. And for a long time, I know my priorities weren't in the right place. I thought they were in the right place. But they most certainly were not. We all go through the struggle. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be able to feed our families. We want to be able to pay our bills. We want to stay afloat. And working towards that seems to be an honorable thing, right? Well, most certainly it is. You want to do the right things, but if you're doing them for the wrong reasons, then sometimes that has consequences, and they're emotional consequences for all of us. When you do the right things just out of a sense of obligation, or a sense of guilt, or a sense of feeling like that's what you're socially bound to do, then you feel trapped. I've been there. I felt trapped in dead-end jobs that have taken me away from my home and my family for countless hours of my life. Countless hours that I'd missed out on because I was busy just trying to earn the paycheck, to pay the bills, to keep the roof over the head, and the food on the table. And this is what was understood here by the preacher, that everybody, at some point in their life, they take a look around and they say, okay, I'm tired. Why do I have to keep toiling away like this, just to barely scrape by, just to keep from starving to death, to keep my family above water here? This is understood by a lot of people. We've all been there. There are people out there that have struggled with these questions. And sometimes, I think a lot of the problem in the modern age is we don't even take the time to ask these questions. They've kind of been pushed to the back of our minds. Oftentimes, we don't want to deal with something that might make us a little bit uncomfortable. And oftentimes, thinking in this way makes you uncomfortable. But you know what? It's necessary to ask the questions. What am I doing with my life? And when you ask those questions, you'll see some doors and avenues open up to you wherein you can improve your situation just by pretty much just sitting back and taking account of what you have going on and where your priorities lie and what is truly important to you. And sometimes doing this accounting is a little bit difficult, but it is necessary. And that's something I think that the author here, the preacher, as said here, was pointing out. We see these things, we see all this labor that's gone on, and we notice there's an inherent pattern in nature where everything seems to go circularly. But you know what? Nature never fails to do what nature does. The sun will come up tomorrow. The winds will blow where they need to blow. The rivers will return to the seas and then cycle back again. These things all happen in accordance to the perfect timing of the Creator here. And sometimes it's difficult to see where's the end result here because of the cyclical nature of this. But keep in mind, we being a microcosm of this greater macrocosm of nature, we need to understand that we too have these energies that we are to use in a way that benefits not just us, but other human beings as well. And the labor is often difficult and is always ever present, but it's cyclical in nature. And sometimes you will feel overwhelmed, tired, frustrated. And there are other times when you will feel actually delighted when you begin to see some positive results in the fruits of your labor. And it's important to look at both sides of this, of course. It's kind of the yin and yang principle if you want to look at the Eastern ideologies in this type of a thing. You have to have positive and negative. It's polarity, the polarity principle again. We have ups and downs in life. Life is a roller coaster. And we need to remember that even if you're going through a hard time, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you're going through darkness, the sun comes up in the morning. Joy cometh in the morning. Though sorrow may last for the night, joy cometh in the morning. And that's one of the things that sometimes we need a reminder of. We need to slow down a little bit. In this breakneck speed that society goes with, sometimes it's better to slow down. Count your blessings. Thank God for those blessings. And then try to bless others. You see, we've been told that if you seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all these things will be added unto you. So it's not about seeking material wealth or glory or more money, a bigger house, a new car, all the accoutrements of modern day life. It's not about that. It's not about status in society. It's not about bragging rights or anything. We're all equals. We all share the same fate when it comes down to it. Stay humble. That's the point. But remember these things. But let's continue on here. We left off reading through verse 9, which says, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us." Going to pause for a moment here, folks. Yes, even this technological age we live in now, these miracles of modern technology that we experience on the daily, has likely been done before. Or at least something concurrent to it. In an age past in history that we probably know nothing about. We have this assurance from the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. Even these supercomputers, these artificial intelligences, and all of the things that we see in society around us, the entertainment media, the news media, if you want to call it news, draws your mind to the four winds, north, east, west, south, the news. Propaganda. All these things, they're not new. They've all been done before. From old time. We have our assurance here, but let's continue reading. "There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. I, preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit." Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. Vanity and vexation of spirit. That is what pursuing this hyper-materialist reality viewpoint is. It's vexation of spirit. It's vanity. All of this stuff, living within the illusion, the illusory system, being caught up in just the materiality of this world, the consumerism. That's what this is speaking to. It's vanity. It's vexation of spirit. What does that mean, vexation of spirit? It's not good for your soul. It doesn't fulfill your spiritual needs, your desires. You see, man has this inherent need of the spiritual. He has a need for a type of communion with his Creator, a relationship with his Creator, and nothing will adequately fill this void in this material world. There's nothing that will fill that spiritual void in the material realm, though people try. They try, and they fail. And they're never fully satisfied in that way. Let's read on here and see what other wisdom we could garner here. He says, I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. I communed with mine own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is grief. In much wisdom is much grief. And he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. Gonna pause for a moment there, folks, as we close out chapter 1 of Ecclesiastes there, and point out that yes, sometimes it seems with this wisdom and with this knowledge, there is grief. There is this grief, this sorrow, because you understand many things at a deeper level than others do. And it is certainly a blessing and a curse in many ways to attain wisdom and knowledge of this sort. It was one of the Greek philosophers, I forget which one, said that there's no greater sorrow than having insight into much, but power over little. And this is a kind of a true statement in that. So the thing is here, to understand a lot of the workings of this world, of society, having this knowledge, can sometimes bring you an increased amount of sorrow, because you look around at the people around you who are clueless, just walking around, blind to how they're being used and manipulated, blind to how they think they're free, but they are not. And it makes you sad to understand that they are bound in a prison of their own mind, and they don't even know it. And how do you communicate this message to somebody that way? It's a difficult thing. So that in and of itself can bring a type of sorrow, simply because, well, if you have any type of empathy for others, it makes you very distraught, very sad to see them in that state. So that is an accurate statement. And it is also true that when you have increased knowledge and increased wisdom of certain aspects of life and certain aspects of how this world operates, you begin to realize, especially if you're in that position where you're laboring and you think it's in vain because it's not doing you good, it's not doing your family good, it's not doing good to those that you want to do good for, but it may be benefiting some corporation out there somewhere, some dead entity that doesn't care about you or your family. All it cares about is their bottom line. And when you begin to see that, it can be discouraging at times, but understand, there's a spiritual aspect that goes along with this too, where there is always some type of reward or gratification from any labor performed. And it may not always be pleasant, and you may not like your job. Like I said, I've been there. But sometimes you need to just get through that cycle of time. Oftentimes the good Lord uses these things as a preparation grounds for us for something greater. And we don't always see his purposes, especially at the time when we are struggling and we are beat down and we are tired. But we need to keep pushing on. Pushing on towards that hope that something better will come of it. And it's not always easy to do, and it is easy at times to lose your faith in this process. But remember, if you look at the larger world around you, it runs through these same cycles, day and night, different seasons of the year. And I'm reminding us of this as we're stepping into the end of summer here and towards the fall, because the social engineers of this world will very soon be trying to utilize and leverage those energies, those energetic principles associated with the fall, in ways that benefit them, the select few at the top of the power structure here that understand how to leverage certain things and agendas in this way. And they always time this in accordance with the seasons, because they know something about the cyclical nature of the world, of this place we live, of the very aspects of ourselves. And that's the other thing. You see, the seasons don't just affect the greater weather in the environment, in the larger, vaster environment in which we live. The human being is affected by these shifts in the season as well. This is an important thing that ancient man understood that we seem to have lost sight of today. We tend to separate those things. We don't think we belong as part of this natural cycle, of this natural world. But we are. And that's what a lot of the technocrats, that's one of the agendas they try to drive home. We don't belong here. That's kind of the notion that they give, because if you look at how they talk, they say the world would be better off without man here. That's the way they think and they present things. That's why they want to do nature preserve areas where human beings can't go, part of their Agenda 2030 projects, to cordon off areas of nature and not have man go in there, because you see, man is a blight upon the earth, a plague upon the earth. This is how they view it, because their ideologies are all based in eugenics and death-based ideas, because it is a death cult that is essentially running things in this world right now at the top of the power chain here. So they look for what benefits them, and they will leverage these certain principles against us. So it's important that we be mindful that we go through these various cycles or seasons in our lives, and sometimes we don't see the springtime sunrise coming when we're in the heart of the winter, or if we're just in the very beginning phases of the fall. We don't always understand it. We don't always see it coming. We don't know what the ends will look like here, or what the results will be of our toil and our efforts. But you know what? You have to step on in faith. Faith in knowing that if you do the right thing, then the return will be out there for you at some point. And that might not be the proper attitude for doing the things you're doing. Let's be honest. You need to do what's good and right just because you know it's good and right, not because you reap some reward from it later. But like I had stated earlier, we've clearly been told that if you seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all these things will be added unto you. The trick is, though, the whole thing is, you don't want to be focused on the material. And that is, I think, a lot of what the problem in modern society is. We are hyper-focused on materiality, on consumerism, especially in Western culture here. Now, that's not to say everybody. That's a broad generalization, but that's how our society is structured. It's fast-paced, it's consumer-driven, it's very flashy, very much concerned with priorities that are of really nonsensical and no important things. It's about image. Image. People want to be socially accepted, not just socially accepted, but they want to have status. They want to feel important. They want to think they have some type of power. And it's all an illusion. It's all vanity, according to the preacher here. It's all vanity, and we'll see why as we continue on. Let's get back to it. So we're in Ecclesiastes chapter 2 now, verse 1. I said in mine heart, go to now. I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in mine heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting mine heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works, I builded me houses, I planted me vineyards, I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water, to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle, above all that were in Jerusalem were before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of provinces. I got me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men, as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity, and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So this is the testimony, allegedly, of King Solomon. That's who this book is alleged to be written by or about here. King Solomon. He didn't deny himself any pleasure. He experimented with all sorts of things, wine, women, song, the whole 9 yards, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, if you want to get modern with it. He did all of these things. He sought all of these fleshly pleasures. And he discovered this is all vanity. This does not fulfill the spirit either. Vexation of spirit. It's not fulfilling. It doesn't fill that void. You see, mankind has this inherent yearning for God, for a right relationship with his Creator. And nothing else fills that void. Nothing else. That's what Solomon discovered here. Even wisdom and knowledge, gnosis, if you will, even that does not fill the void. Now, this is a hugely important thing, in my estimation, because you see, there's so many out there that are so interested and caught up in many of these occult and esoteric type teachings and all of these different mysteries, because they think somehow this gnosis or this illumination or this experience is going to fulfill that need, that yearning. It won't. The only thing that can fill that void is God himself. Right relationship with God. And sometimes seeking after these things can lead you on a trail to God, but more oftentimes it doesn't. It leads you further astray from God into more of this vexation of spirit, as we see here, as Solomon declares. Because you see, he tried to have it both ways, and he did actually have it both ways. Not only was he able to pursue the foolish things as he regarded them here, this whole notion of fulfilling all these earthly pleasures, wine, women, and song, but he also was able to retain his wisdom and his knowledge, and he understood the spiritual implications of the results of his actions in this way, and he discovered this is not fulfilling. Even though he denied himself nothing, that doesn't lead to fulfillment, folks. So it's not fulfilling. And even this idea of secret knowledge doesn't fill the void either. Wisdom, knowledge, they don't fill that void. And in fact, they do oftentimes come with an extra portion of sorrow or sadness as you look upon the world around you and have more insight into what is behind much of the causation here, spiritually. It can sadden you sometimes, but you know what? It's still worthwhile to seek knowledge and wisdom, because without that, you grasp after wind, and that causes even more vexation of spirit, as Solomon calls it here. Vexation of spirit. This unfulfillment, this unfulfilled feeling, because it's only through seeking out knowledge and wisdom that you can get to the knowledge of understanding that what is missing, what is this missing piece that you yearn after, that nothing materially here in this world seems to fill. And once you've discovered that nothing material here in this world doesn't fill that void, then you begin to seek perhaps knowledge to fill that void, or wisdom to fill that void. And through the course of time, you discover that doesn't work either. There's a missing piece here. And this is the important thing that Solomon pointed out. So let's read on and see what that is. So he says, "Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. And I turned myself to behold wisdom, and madness, and folly. For what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light exceedeth darkness." Going to pause for a moment here, folks. So he discovered that wisdom is infinitely better than folly, than ignorance. Knowledge is better than ignorance, infinitely so. So it doesn't pay to go down that avenue of folly, and many people willingly fall into that avenue of folly today. This has been socially engineered and ingrained in us, indoctrinated into our culture. It's cool. It's not cool to be smart, right? You've seen that kind of a trope was engineered into society since about the end of the 1950s. They began deliberately dumbing us down. It's not cool to be smart. That's not cool. You're not popular if you're the smart kid in school. This kind of thing. And it's escalated through the years, and it's changed and altered slightly. But then they also have presented this folly or error as wisdom and knowledge, when what they're presenting you are lies, manipulations, indoctrination. Indoctrination instead of education. That is what you would call folly, for sure. They don't teach you how to think. They try to teach you what to think. And we need to be taught how to think. Because if you can't think for yourself, somebody else will do your thinking for you. And then you're bought into this folly. So he says, and I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happeneth to them all. Then said in my heart, as it happeneth to the fool, so it happeneth even to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As the fool. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So Solomon pondered and realized, hey, you know what? I share the same fate with the fool. The wise man and the not-so-wise man. We all will have to, at some point, come to terms with the idea that we will die. That's what he's talking about here. The same fate awaits all of us. Now, that is, of course, unless you listen to the transhumanists who somehow think that they could transfer their consciousness into a machine and live forever, which I assure you probably has already also been done before, as there is nothing new under the sun. They've probably attempted the same before, or some similar notion to that. So Solomon realizes we have the great equalizer here. And that's the whole point. This is the great equalizer. And it's important to understand, what is it that matters after that great equalizer? The wise man dieth, and so does the fool, all the same. Let's read on. He says, therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Gonna pause for a moment there, folks. So after he realized that after all his work, all the things he toiled to do, all the wisdom he had, it didn't give him any advantage in the end over him who had none of that. And this made him sour in his spirit for a time. He says, therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. You see, he realized that it wasn't fulfilling. All this work, building these grand and glorious mansions, owning all this property, having all this power in this world, all this power, prestige, honor, blessings, material wealth, and even being super smart and super wise and understanding things, this also did not fill that spiritual void. He had this vexation of spirit still. And he also had a bitter heart at that point. He hated life. He hated the fact that in all his grandeur, he shared the same fate with a pauper, with the fool, with the drunk in the ditch. This made him bitter. Let's see what else he says here. He says, yea, I hated all my labor, which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. Gonna pause for a second there. So then he also began thinking, I share the same fate with the drunk in the ditch, with the fool. Well, what will happen to all of this that I built with my hands and I toiled for? All the work, all my labor, the things I toiled for with my labor. What's going to come of this after I'm gone? Well, he thought, Hey, my dingbat kid's probably going to sell the mansion and do something stupid and go blow the money in Las Vegas or some such thing. And I'm being facetious, folks, but this is probably this is very similar. If it were modern times, that's probably what one of the things he was thinking. My idiot kid's gonna go sell this all my property and stuff and get it ripped off for it because he doesn't know what he's got. And then he's gonna go blow my money that I made on something that he doesn't need or something that's useless, and he's gonna be foolish with it. That's probably what he was thinking here. So, that being the case, you could see Solomon's been through all this. He thought very deeply about this. So he says, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. What happens with all of this after we're gone? And that's also part of the thing in the modern era. Even back then, we toil and we labor, and some of that toil and labor, the earnings thereof, go somewhere else. It's called taxation. It's called paying the bills. There's other aspects of this that are immediate, not even just the part of, who inherits all the stuff that I worked for. What are they going to do with it? You also have to understand that a portion of all of your labor, all of your energy, your social energy, gets siphoned off by the system that we live in, this monetary system that we have. You see, dollars, folks, are a measure of social energy. That's the big secret of money. Money, or the monetary system, banking, is an alchemical science. And when you realize that all that is, all the dollar is a measure of social energy. When you begin to realize that, then you understand how every minute in your life has already had a bet hedged against it as to what your value is to these controllers, these technocrats, these dark occultists that run things in this world. They hedge their bets. They place a value on you based upon that in terms of dollars and cents, because the dollar, like I said, it's a measure of social energy. What is your worth? And that's how they measure you, quantify you. And that's one of the things, the big secrets of how our society operates. It's all caught up in the money system, and people don't realize that. But Solomon, in his wisdom, he understood this, and he understood that, perhaps the people coming after me, the ones that inherit my empire, maybe they're not going to be as nice as I am. And maybe they're going to do stupid things and they're going to hurt people. And he had been through all of this. So this is likely what he was thinking. Not only who's going to come after me, what are they going to do with all of this? But he was probably also thinking, how much do I really put out every day, monetarily and other ways, that's not really producing anything beneficial in this world? How much of it is just vanity or for the sake of appearances? Because think about it, how many homes do you need? That's one that's always perplexed me. How many homes do you need? How many houses do you need to own and live in? You can only live in one at a time. Why would you need more? And then you would have to maintain that property as well, especially if it's just for you. You'd have to maintain that property, so you're paying people to take care of that property, paying to maintain that property, and it's unnecessary. It's vanity. It's all for keeping up appearances. It's all for the sake of status, power, appearance, like I said. So a lot of this stuff probably was going through Solomon's mind because he thought, I have all of this wealth, all of these things that are mine, that I care for, and that I'm expending all of this energy on unnecessarily, and it's not doing anything good or worthwhile. And it's not fulfilling that void in his heart. So let's read on here and see what else he says. He says, And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and wherein I have shewed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity, yet to a man that hath not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity and a great evil. I'm going to pause for a moment here, folks. So he sees it as a great evil if one man works and builds something through knowledge and wisdom and equity, and he worked and labored and toiled away with it, and it gets left to somebody who didn't have a care in the world about it. This is vanity as well. And a great evil, he calls it, which he's not wrong, because it's a waste. When somebody gains control of something that they have no understanding of, and it becomes nothing as a result, or gets toiled away into nothingness as a result, then that's an awful shame. For an example, if somebody owns a business and that person dies and their kid takes over that business and they don't know what they're doing, and that business gets swallowed up and goes bankrupt, and that's the end of that, and it's therefore not producing anything valuable anymore, and it's not even sustaining those beloved family members that it was left to, then that is a shame and it's a great evil. And that's what Solomon was dealing with. That's what he was thinking here with that kind of a notion. But let's continue on. For what hath man of all his labor and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. I'm going to pause for a moment here, folks. So many rich men have this same problem. They don't rest in the night. They don't sleep well because they're always worried about all of these things. They're worried about their finances. Constantly worried about all of this. And the more things you have, the more you have to worry about. And this, too, he understood to be vanity. Getting no rest, worrying day and night about things going wrong with all of the many things he controlled and had. Let's read on here. There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. I'm going to pause for a moment here, folks. So, Solomon here says, it's good for man to enjoy in the now, in the moment, in the present, the fruits of his labor, not waiting until tomorrow, waiting until some future date when you may or may not retire. See, and that's part of the social programming that's been done to us. We've been socially engineered into toiling away towards this American dream. And what is the American dream? You get the job, you buy the house, you buy the car, you have all the nice things, you take the vacations twice a year. You know, those only 2 weeks off a year you get from your job, from work. And you save up for your retirement. And then someday, when you turn 65 or 67 or 72, whatever the retirement age is these days, then you can retire and maybe enjoy the last couple years of your life, you know, when you're older and likely have more medical ailments and are less able to do many of the things you could have done when you were younger. That's what the American dream that has been handed to us looks like. You toil all your vitality away at a job for many years, forever, for this hope of a retirement in the future. And I've known a lot of people who haven't made it to that retirement. I've also known people that finally did make it to that retirement and were not able to actually enjoy it because they didn't live long enough to enjoy it at that point. So it makes you ask, what is all this worth? Like, what's the point in that? You trade away years of your life betting on the future and not have it come to fruition. And then, by then, it's too late because when you realize, hey, you know what? I've traded away all of these years of my life. And I've missed out on many beautiful aspects of life during those years because I was too busy at work. And what does it add up to? Well, folks, it's important that we live in the now. We need to be mindful of the future and plan for the future. But we don't want to stop living now. I think that's the important notion we get here. Live in today. Be mindful of the moment. Enjoy the moment. These moments are fleeting in life. Enjoy the beauty of the day. Count your blessings every day. Give thanks to the Lord for the things He's given you, for the comforts and the joys and the fruits of your labor that you have today, that you can enjoy, even the small things, the small comforts in your life. Give thanks for that. Don't take it for granted, because that's what happens a lot of times. We get busy in our day-to-day grind, going to work to pay the bills and stuff like that. And we lose sight of these things. We forget to be thankful, to have gratitude for the things that we do have in the here and the now. And oftentimes we have our eyes too fixated on the future, and that's not always a good thing either. Because when you fixate too much on the future, do you know what happens? You begin to worry. No good comes from worrying. Even Jesus said, "Who among you by worrying can add 1 cubit to your stature?" Put your trust and your faith in God above. He's got your future in His hands. He knows what's coming next for you. Don't fixate on the future too much, and therefore bring about worries in your mind that will probably never come to fruition. I think the statistic is 95% of all the things we worry about never come to fruition, if I remember that statistic correctly. It's something like that. It's a really high percentage of all those things we ever worry about never come to pass anyway. So it's energy wasted worrying about that and thinking about that. So we don't want to toil away the time that we have here, first of all, in worrying, and also in doing something that does not bring us that joy from day to day. So if you're in that situation where you don't have that joy from day to day, and you're just toiling away and you're not seeing the reward, understand that may just be a temporary situation. They're all temporary situations. We go through these valleys and peaks in life. Like I said, it is a roller coaster. We have our ups and our downs. We have our down moments. But sometimes when we're in that place where we feel we just got in this rut and we feel like we just can't do it anymore. We're tired. We're worn out. We're beat down. Sometimes that's time when you need to take a step back, take a little break, and reflect upon things, and maybe begin to institute some changes for the better. It takes action as well on our part, deliberate action, to make changes at points too. So we don't have to accept that. We have better things in store for us. Better things. We have that hope for the future, but also we need to be in the present as well. And we don't want to dwell on the past either. That's another thing many of us wind up doing. And that I think he'll touch upon here as we get a little further into Ecclesiastes. So let's go ahead and read on. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. So he says here that if you rightly seek out God, God will reward you with wisdom and knowledge and joy. Not necessarily material things, not necessarily any of that stuff. But what's better than wisdom and knowledge and joy? Not much, right? But at any rate, so we see here, he says that the sinner will build up his own rewards, his own just rewards as well. That he will have this vexation of spirit. But you see, what still bothers Solomon in this regards is the fact that the fool and the wise man still have the same fate. And as you could see, Solomon began to worry about the future a little too much, understanding that perhaps the one who comes after him will probably waste away all these things that Solomon worked for, and that could be bad. So he had this bitter taste in his mouth, in his spirit for a while. But let's continue on, because now we're going to get to chapter 3. This is probably my favorite book in the Bible, I'll be honest. There's just something reassuring knowing that people have gone through these same things before, and that we all go through these same things, and that all of nature goes through these things. We go through the highs and lows, and there's a time and a purpose for everything. There's something reassuring in knowing that and understanding that on a deeper level. So let's read on here. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. I'm going to pause for a moment there, folks. There's a time to keep silent, and there's a time to speak. And in my spirit, I just know that these times we're living in, now is the time for us to speak. It's not a time to be silent. Too many were being silent 3 years ago. And now, Many people are talking about these same type things happening that happened back in 2020. And you could see the patterns emerging in the propaganda mouthpieces that are the news media and the entertainment, the ones that are trying to grease the skids for certain events to happen. It's not a time to be silent. Too many people remained silent that first time around. If something like this happens again, it's time to speak up. It is not time to be quiet. Now, there were many of us who spoke up last time, but I think the numbers will be even greater this time who speak up. And it is a time for that. All these things happen in the natural cycles of nature through the course of time. And there is a season for all of these things. So perhaps we've been taught a great lesson through all of this. And at the time, and probably even now, it's hard to see the good that's come from all of these things that have occurred in this world. But I assure you, folks, there are good things that have come about as a result of these bad things. For you see, that's what spiritual alchemy is. Taking the bad and transmuting it into the good. And this is what God does for us. For all things work together for good to those who believe on Him and are called according to His purpose. He'll transform the bad into good. He will bring about good through the bad things. And we have the bad times, but we could be assured that joy cometh in the morning. Although sorrow endureth for the night, joy cometh in the morning. And we do go through these cycles. And sometimes we come out better, out the other side from the bad experience. And sometimes there's a time to keep silent, and other times there's a time to speak. And now's a time to speak, for sure. We're not going to let things happen again the way that they had in the past. I think there's a lot of people that have learned the lesson the hard way. And that is a shame that they had to learn it the hard way. But alas, sometimes that's the only way some people learn, is the hard way. I have some experience with that. My oldest son is kind of like that. He only ever learns the hard way. Could tell him something till you're blue in the face, but he has to find out the hard way. And then he'll come back later and say, you were right. I think we've all been in that situation, on both sides of that situation, probably. And that's one of the things that we need to understand. Sometimes people are going to make the wrong choice for themselves. And although we may have the knowledge or wisdom to know better ourselves, and we warn them against it, and it makes us sad to see them take the wrong choice or go down the wrong road, yet we watch them do it. And it does give us that little pang of sorrow, because that's one of the things that comes with wisdom and knowledge, is increased sorrow, because we know, we understand what the ramifications are, and this person does not. And you have to watch them go through a thing anyway. And that's difficult. That's one of the combination of blessing and curse that is wisdom or knowledge in this way. But it still far exceeds ignorance or folly. Better to have insights into things than to not have insights into things. But at any rate, I think I've side-tangented there a little too much. Let's get back to this, because it's important to understand that life is cyclical, and it's all temporary. Let's read on. So he says, after a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So this is where the truly profound bits come in. in my estimation. You see, he hath made everything beautiful in his time. Think about that. This world can be and is a beautiful place, and there is so much beauty to be found in life itself, even in the little things of life. And oftentimes we overlook it and we miss it because we're too busy worrying about tomorrow. But if we live in the present, live in the now, in the moment, we can enjoy the fruits of our labor, and we can enjoy the beauty all around us that is inherent here. And he says here that God hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. You see, we are finite beings. We are individuals. We don't understand the workings of God or the mind of God. We don't see the beginning from the end. We don't know the whole story. We just see the small part that we play, the small fraction that we reside in here. And make no mistake about it, God has an individual plan for each of us and wants us to pursue that plan because it's a good plan. It's the best thing for us to seek after God's direction for us. And I think that's what we need to do on some level in all these things, especially if you're going through that low place in your life. If you're in that perpetual shadow, you're in that rut, you don't know where to go next, don't know what to do next. You're tired, you're beat down, you're drained, you're exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally. And you still keep trying to fight the good fight and power through it. And sometimes that's good enough, and God's grace is enough and will get us through. But other times, that means it's time to take a step back and reflect on what are our priorities. What are we focusing on? Sometimes it's time to do an assessment and realign our priorities. And like I said, other times it's just part of the cycle that you naturally go through, and at some point, things turn around. Other times, not the case. Other times, you need to make a change. And only you can assess whether you need to make a change or not. That is probably the most important thing we can do, is reflect upon these deeper sentiments, these deeper philosophies and religious ideals. Think about the spiritual. Think about, what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we making a difference? Or are we just surviving? Are we truly living, or are we just surviving? Jesus came to give us life and more abundantly. We can have that. We don't have to settle for toiling away, hoping for a retirement someday where we can enjoy ourselves then. We can have joy in the moment, in the now. We can enjoy the fruits of our labor now. And we should. Because otherwise, as Solomon calls it, it's all vanity. We should help others. We should enrich others. You see, when you've been blessed abundantly, and when you've toiled, and you receive the fruits of your labor, you need to share that with others. Help others. And that's not to say you need to give people money or whatever. Don't misinterpret that. That's not what that means. Give of your talents. Give of your knowledge, of your wisdom, of yourself. Just show somebody you care. Show people you care. Help somebody out. Because many people are going through hard times. And maybe they would benefit from something you know or have to say or something you do for them. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. But out of the joy of your heart, give something to somebody else. And in doing this, you'll begin to find that things get a whole lot better. You see, helping others helps yourself too. But it's helping others out of altruism, not out of seeking some reward after the fact. It's a state of being. When you have a heart of thankfulness and gratitude, you want to bless others. And this is truly what it is for man to rejoice in the fruit of his labors. Let's read on here. So we see he hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. That's the crux of all of it. You see, sometimes the work is hard and thankless, but when you do reap the fruits of that good work, rejoice and do good with those fruits, and do good in your life. He says, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it, that men should fear before him. That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been, and God requireth that which is past. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. Gonna pause for a moment here, folks. So now moving on to some other ideas here. We see it's good that a man should enjoy the fruits of his labor and do good and seek to do good. But also, Solomon noticed that there was wickedness in the places of judgment and iniquity in the places of righteousness, and that was not a good thing. There was corruption back then, even as there is now. Corruption and justice isn't always done, but we should not despair about that. Let's read on and see what he says here. He says, I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them, as the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they all have one breath, so that a man hath no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. All go unto one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knoweth the spirit of a man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth? Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? Gonna pause there, folks. So therefore, man should rejoice in his own works. That is his portion. It is a gift of God. Rejoice in the fruits of your labor. Rejoice in the work that you are capable of doing. You see, many of us have gifts and talents that others do not. Rejoice in those gifts and talents that you have, and give freely of them to others when it's appropriate. Do good with those gifts and talents. Rejoice in them and do good. That is our portion. And if we do that, we can have joy in our lives, in the now, in the moment, not some far off time in the future, which we plan for. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad to plan for a retirement or for some such thing, or to do future planning. That's, of course, a necessity. But don't miss the magic of the moment. Don't miss the beauty of right now. Don't miss out on some of the little important things in life that often get overlooked in the hustle and bustle of our everyday lives. I look back and I realized I missed an awful lot of some of my children's childhoods when I was away at work, toiling away. The only really finite, limited thing that we have here in this place is our time. Use your time wisely. This is also part of the notion here. Part of living in the moment. Part of using your talents to do good. Part of rejoicing in the work of your hands. Part of our portion here. The gift of God to us. That if we work diligently with our talents and we do good, we shall have reward. You can have joy. But the key to all of it, folks, is to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Then all these things will be added to you. For you see, he'll direct your paths. He'll reveal to you what your talents are. He'll reveal to you what you could and should be doing. He'll direct you. And he'll fill that void, that yearning in your heart for the spiritual, for him. He's the only thing that can. Many people seek out the material things in this place. But you know what? They're only very fleeting. They only satisfy for perhaps a short time. And then after that, they leave a bitter taste in your mouth, as we see from the example of Solomon here. He denied himself nothing. He pursued all of those avenues of thought. He even pursued the avenues of seeking after wisdom and knowledge, and secret knowledge, gnosis. And that was also unfulfilling. That also led to the path of bitterness, anger, frustration, vexation of spirit, he called it. Did not feed his soul, his spirit. It's only through right relationship with God that we can have that. That we could fulfill that void, that need in our hearts that we yearn for. And when we do that, then we will also seek to do good and seek to do that which is right and follow that path that the good Lord has laid before us. Seek him out. He'll direct your footsteps. And even when you go through the shadows and the valleys and you don't see him, he is there working all the time. And he'll get you there. You need to keep your faith, and you need to enjoy and live in the moment. Don't worry about the future. Of course, plan for the future, but don't worry about it. Don't hyperfixate on it, or get to the point in life where you're just planning on this future day some time afar off that may not come to fruition, to do all the things that you want to do, to say all the things that you want to say. Do good in your life. Use your talents for good. And you know, in the end, what really matters are the people in your life. Love one another, show one another kindness, help others. That's the right thing to do. Like I said, folks, nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. All these things that we see happening in society today, it's all been done and tried before. And we may go through some dark times, but certainly there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And we can get through it. And the key to doing that is to keep our heart focused on God. And keep that joy in our hearts. Have that faith. And just take the extra step and do something good or nice for somebody you love, or even for a total stranger. Use your talents to bless somebody else. There's not much more rewarding in this life than doing that. Doing good unto others with no expectation of a return on that investment, but be assured, when you do the right things with the right mindset and the right attitude and for the right reasons, good things will come back to you. That's how things work. It's all part of natural law here. It's all the way the Creator made this place to operate. So don't tire in doing good, and don't tire in earnestly seeking out for God. Take the time to be introspective. Take a step back from the rat race. Take a step back from the hustle and bustle that we have here. The fast pace of everyday life, where oftentimes we don't give ourselves times to think or to contemplate or to reevaluate things we're doing. Are we making a difference in this world? Do we have something to offer? We need to do that. We need to do that more. And like I said, we're living in a time now where there's a choice to be made. You can remain silent or you can speak up. I would say, but by and large, now is not a time for silence, but a time to speak. Because if we remain silent, there's others who will do our speaking for us, and they don't have our best interests in mind. But we can get through, and we can have a brighter, better future ahead. So like I said, bit of hope and encouragement tonight. I sincerely, honestly hope that this has blessed somebody out there. It's a powerful message from the Bible to understand that even though we go through times of hardship, joy cometh in the morning. That even when the path looks bleak, there's always, always, always the hope for a brighter future. We can change things. There's nothing written in stone about our future, folks. We can change it in the twinkling of an eye. Those technocrats and power brokers in this world that have some very dark agendas in mind and some very draconian things in mind for us in the future, we have not lost hope yet. They have not won. Don't let them trick you into thinking that they've won for one moment. They claim this stuff is all coming whether you like it or not. I got news for you people. Our God is a miracle-working God. And if enough of us refuse your offer, and all things are an offer at the end of the day, if we refuse your offer, and we decline to listen to what you tell us that you want us to do, then your whole house of cards crumbles. And there's nothing you can do about it. Divine intervention, I do believe in divine intervention, and I think that people's hearts and minds are stirred at this point, realizing what's been done here in our world in recent years and recent months. And people just aren't buying the nonsense anymore. And that, I think, is a truly miraculous thing. And I think the hand of God will move mightily when enough of us speak up. Tell them no. We're not doing this whole digital system thing that you want, that you have in mind, where we're bound to it. We're not going to accept it. And we can have hope. So even though it looks dark, you don't have the full picture. We don't get the full picture. We get little bits and pieces that are hand-fed to us by a select few media companies that show us what they want us to think or what they want us to see, tell us what they want us to perceive to be the truth. When if you go out and you talk to people in your neighborhood and your communities, you'll find very much that most of them are of the same mindset as you, and that all of these dark agendas that are being pushed on the news and in the media, that does not reflect the bulk of the population. And when people realize this, that is when we can have a better change for things to come here. And I think we're almost there. And it'll just take a little bit of a supernatural nudge from the hand of the Creator to shift things over the top here. And I think that's definitely a feasible possibility. But don't lose the focus. Don't lose the focus. Keep joy in your heart. Have that right relationship with God. And then you don't have to worry about the future. You know who's got your back. You can have some peace. That peace that surpasses understanding. You can have joy and peace in the moment, in the now. So understand, even though sometimes when you feel like you're toiling away and getting no results, and you're going through that dark place, there is an end in sight for that dark place. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's that renewed mind that comes with the new morning when you can stay focused on these things, on the spiritual, rather than keeping your eyes on the physical that we see. Have that faith, that little inclination of faith, that faith as a mustard seed. That's all we need. And then know, if you have that faith, God's grace is sufficient. And that's all you really need. And faith and belief are two different things, folks. So even though we've been advised to be weary of beliefs without any evidences, faith is something different than belief. And our limited English language sometimes has a hard time separating those two. But faith is key to everything. Having this faith and this relationship with God. Having that faith like that of a mustard seed, just that small notion of faith. Knowing that all these bad things that we see can be changed to good for us. That God does that. Just having that faith is enough. God's grace is sufficient. Don't hyper-focus on the future, and don't obsess over things done in the past. Live for the now, and have the joy in the moment. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Rejoice in those. That is our portion here. Give back. Give it forward. Pay it forward. Help somebody else today. That's the crux of the message tonight, folks. There's nothing new under the sun. We've seen it all before. It'll get better. That we have a guarantee. Even if it's a dark time, it will get better. The sun will come up in the morning. We have these promises, and we can see them inherent in the natural order of things in this world. And they're there as a reminder of this fact. So know when the sun comes up tomorrow that that's a type of a promissory note that if things are going bad for you now, they will get better. Keep that in mind. Anyway, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I sincerely hope this did bless somebody out there. We'll catch you next time. Have a good night now.
Come with me. Got something to say. say.